that international business is driven by information and technology. So the entire international business, the core essence that drives the international business is information and technology. Without information and technology, international business is possible, but the success and the growth of international business can be attributed to information technology. It is very wrong to say that without information and technology, international business cannot be carried out, because in the past we have seen without information technology, also international trade was carried out in the past, in the history. But now, in the present context, one of the enabler why international business has grown so well, why international business has become so rapid, one of the important reason for the success, or one of the enabling factor for the growth of international business, is information and technology. So first of all, you have to understand what do you mean by information, and what kind of information does international business requires. And second, what is the role of technology in the growth and success of international business? So there are two different points which are clubbed here. One from the perspective of information, and the second from the perspective of technology. So in order to, when we say information, what kind of information is required for international business? So when we say international, it means awareness, right? As an international company, when I'm venturing into a new market, when I'm planning to start a business in a relatively new country where previously I've never done any business, my first priority before venturing into that particular country is to do due diligence. So when we say due diligence, it means basically I have to gather the information about the country, right? I have to gather the information about the market, and then I have to take a decision whether that particular country where I'm planning to do my international business, whether that country provides a suitable environment. When we say environment, it can also be geographical environment, but environment is a broader term here. Environment also includes economic policies, government policies, politics, financial market. So here environment is a broader term. So when I'm planning to do a business in a particular nation, I have to do scrutiny of all this environmental factors. So I have to gather information about these factors which are very important. So when we say information, here we are saying in collecting information about a particular country where you intend to do business. So what kind of information should I collect? The answer is it's a big list. The list goes, right? The list goes on. But some of the important parameters on which information is very much necessary is, first, who are you trying to sell the product? You're trying to sell the product to the customers. So first try to understand your customers, try to understand the behavior of the customer, the needs of the customer, the requirements of the customer, right? Their purchasing behavior, right? Their attitude. So by understanding customer in depth, it becomes very easier for you to know that whether your product will be successful in the target market or not. So first thing, you have to understand your customer, for which you have to gather information about your customer. I would say more than the customer, who creates the environment of doing the business in a particular country? And the answer is the environment is created by the government. The government of a particular country creates an environment which enables for business to flourish. If government does not create a conducive environment, then you can't do business in any country in the world. So when I say environment, how does the government create a conducive environment? The answer to this question is very simple. Government creates a conducive environment through its policies, right? Through its policies, through its laws, regulation, government creates a conducive environment. So when the government policies, laws itself is not in your favor, then how can you do business in an international country? Right. So therefore, before venturing into a foreign market, it is very important for a country to examine all those factors which are necessary for the company to grow in the foreign market. And therefore, a company which is planning to do business in foreign market should collect necessary information. Right. So this information is collected through various sources. So first, try to understand whether the country in which you're planning to do business, whether the government is creating a conducive environment or not for you to do business or not, right? So what happened a couple of years back, as you are aware, that Indian government uh, was not in the favor of foreign companies. Indian government wanted foreign companies to do business in India, but Indian government imposed a lot of restriction on foreign companies. So Indian government had an attitude wherein it wanted to allow foreign companies to do business in India, but on the other hand, it also wanted to promote domestic companies. It wanted to support domestic companies, right? So how is it possible to give you on the one hand you want foreign companies also to come, on the other hand you don't want foreign companies to grow in your country, you want your domestic companies to grow, right? So that's actually a very difficult policy for foreign companies, because on the one hand I'm allowing you to do business, but on the other hand I'm not allowing you to grow in the country. So it's a very challenging situation. So you as a company coming from a foreign market, coming from a different country, right, you should first try understanding whether the host country government policies are in your favor, whether those policies are allowing your business to grow or not. So in 80s, Indian government had changed its stance and it wanted to promote more of domestic companies, but it did wanted foreign companies to face any difficulty as such in entering Indian market. So they were allowed freely to come to India and to do business, but the policies were in the favor of domestic companies. So in the 80s, what government of India did, government of India came up with a new FDI policy, foreign direct investment policy. And the FDI policy was very clear that if you want to do business in India, you have to do it through a joint venture. That means you need to collaborate. If I'm a foreign company coming to India to do business, I can't do business independently. I should collaborate with an Indian company. I should have a joint venture with an Indian company, and only then I can do business. So that was the Indian government stand in 80s. So as a result of this new FDI policies, many foreign companies started to leave Indian market. The simple reason why many foreign companies started to leave Indian market, as you know, that no company wants to share its trade secrets with others. So if I want to do business in India, government is saying that I need to collaborate with an Indian company. So when I do business with an Indian company jointly, I have to share all my trade secrets. I have to share all my expertise. So these Indian companies will come to know my trade secrets and expertise also. And tomorrow they may cancel the joint venture and do business independently on their own. But some foreign companies were okay, because at the end of the day, if I don't do international business, it's very difficult to enhance my sales. So I'm okay to do collaboration with Indian companies. So different foreign companies had different stance. Some wanted to continue through collaboration, but some didn't want it to because they didn't want it to share their trade secrets. So what happened in 80s, most of the carbonated beverage companies were of Indian origin except for Coke and Pepsi. Coca-Cola and Pepsi both are from United States of America. So when Coke learned about the new policy that foreign companies should collaborate with Indian companies, Coke decided to leave Indian market and it discontinued its operation in India. On the other hand, Pepsi was thinking as to whether to continue or not, and finally Pepsi decided to stay on in Indian market and it continued to do business. But this FDI policy did not last long. And in the year 1991, when India was going through a crisis, economic crisis, the government changed its stance on FDI policy and made severe changes towards its foreign trade policies. So some of the major changes made in 1991 included high degree of globalization, liberalization, and privatization, something which you guys are already aware of. So in the year 1991, the then finance minister Manmohan Singh decided to globalize Indian economy and lift most of the restrictions that were hindering foreign companies to venture into Indian market. So the restrictions were lifted, and in the year 1997, if I'm not wrong, Coke decided to venture back to Indian market. So Coke decided to come back because no longer restrictions were there. But Coke thought the market, the carbonated beverage market, the way it was in 80s, it would be similar even in 1997. But when Coke entered Indian market, it was without any preparation. And after re-entering Indian market, it learned that Indian carbonated beverage market was already captured and dominated by Indian brands. But in 80s, the scenario was different. So what Coke should have done is before venturing, it should have done what changes have happened and then how I should prepare to respond to these changes. But Coke decided blindly to come to Indian market, and then it realized that the business was not the same the way it was in 80s. And Coke started to learn as to what has changed. Coke started gathering information as to what has changed in the carbonated beverage industry, which Coke should have done before venturing into re-venturing into Indian market. But after venturing into Indian market, it started analyzing what's wrong, right? Why, how things have changed. And the conclusion was simple, that most of the Indians preferred drinking popular Indian beverage products. And the market of carbonated beverage was captured by Parley. Parley Agro Foods products like Thumbs Up, Limca, uh, Sprite, uh, Mazda, right? These were some of the popular brands owned, not owned by Coca-Cola, they were owned by Parley Group. So people like consuming these products. Pepsi was also not doing well in India at that time. So Coke was thinking, what can be done? What strategy should I devise to ensure that my products are sold more than my competitors? And finally, Coca-Cola decided to buy all the products of Parley Agro Foods. So Coke purchased from Parley Agro Foods, Limca, Mazda, right, and then Sprite, Thumbs Up was a very popular drink at that time. So all these were actually brands of Indian company Parley Agro Foods. But Coca-Cola decided to buy all these brands. And after buying all these brands, the pendulum shifted and Coke emerged as India's number one carbonated beverage brand. So the point which I want to make here is that it is very crucial, right? It is very crucial that when you're venturing into an international business, better to study the country where you're planning to do business in detail rather than going and studying. Before venturing itself, you study. See, the concept is simple. I'm trying to make a new pen. Should I understand the needs and study what customer wants from a pen before manufacturing, or after manufacturing the pen, should I take feedback and make changes to my pen? The answer is the first one seems to be much better and more, uh, I would say, pragmatic, right? So more realistic. So therefore, companies should first collect information, right? Then devise their strategies. Not like first venture into a foreign market and if thing goes wrong, you just sit and think why what thing went wrong or why things went wrong. So therefore, in this context, collecting information about the target market, about the country where you want to do international business becomes extremely important. So first collect the information and see whether the government policies are in your favor, whether the customers will like your product or not, and then take a call whether you want to enter or whether you want to cancel the strategy of entering, right? Cancel the plan of entering the market. Now, when we say technology, how technology plays an important role in international business, right? Now, given the fact that we are living in an era where we are surrounded by technology, right? Most of the things what we use in our day-to-day life, right, comes from technology. So technology has become a part and parcel of our life, whether it is mobile phone or whether it is smart TVs. Now you have smart equipments also, right? Smart bulbs, smart tube light, smart carpet, smart cleaner, right? Smart shaver, right? So technology is being integrated in our life and is being integrated in the form of in the products where we use these products in our life on a day-to-day basis. So technology can be a differentiator. Technology can help you win the battles. And when I say battles, I'm not talking about wars. I'm talking about battle that happens between the companies, right? When companies are competing with each other, it is no less than a battle because it's a battle of survival. Given the fact that we have so much of choice, it becomes difficult for companies to convince the customers. So one of the important uh, tool that can help a company, one of the important weapon that can help the company to be a winner is technology. Because the point is very simple. As a customer, if given a choice, I will always select a product which has a better technology, which has a superior technology. So if I have a technology which is very unique, which my competitors do not have, what happens? selling product becomes much easier. But if my product is similar to any other product available in the market, then survival becomes difficult. Generating sales becomes a challenging task. So by imbibing modern technology, future technology, what happens? Selling the product becomes quite easier. And that is what MG Hector did recently. MG Hector was one of the late entrants in Indian market. MG Hector is actually a British brand, but it was sold to a Chinese company. Right now, MG Hector is owned by a Chinese company, even though it is a British brand. So what MG Hector did in India is something which other brands did not realize, that there is a potential for such concept in India, right? So MG Hector came out with India's first internet-enabled technology car was introduced in Indian market by MG Hector. So MG Hector has technology which is capable of doing so many things which nobody can imagine that a car can do, right? But now the moment MG Hector launched this innovative cars, now others are all following the same concept. But MG Hector became the first, I would say, technology-driven car in India. So MG Hector became popular in a short while for a simple reason that it had technology which no other competitor had when it was launched. But now it's a different thing that others are following the same footsteps. But eventually, when it entered Indian market, what was the differentiating point? The differentiating point was the technology, right? So MG Hector has a lot of features which it competitors did not have when MG Hector entered India's market, which involves remotely controlling the car. Before you could come and sit inside your car, you can switch on the AC using your smartphone. Imagine somehow you have parked your car in the hot sun outside. What would happen? The cabin inside would become like a microwave oven. So what happens is, before I could step inside the car, 10 minutes before, I will switch on my mobile phone app and I'll switch on the AC. So the moment I get inside the car temperature is very conducive for me to relax, right? So this technology was something very new to Indians and India's market, right? You can remotely operate the car, right? You can open the doors, you can lock the doors. Let us say I'm going for a meeting in Dubai, but my car is parked in India. So I can lock the car by sitting in Dubai, right? But the car is here in Bangalore. So many such features the car had, and the car became quite popular in a short period of time for a simple reason that the car was loaded with technology. So the point here is that in international business, technology can become an important weapon for you to venture into new markets. Technology can help you to become popular. Technology can help you to capture the market very quickly. Technology can help you to increase your sales. So technology plays a very important role in international business, given the fact that international companies should compete with two categories. One, it has to compete with domestic companies. Second, it has to also compete with other foreign companies. So this technology can help international companies, right, to fight the competition and to create a competitive advantage. So technology will make you superior in comparison to other competitors. So information and technology are very important enablers for doing international business. So if you do not focus on gathering necessary information before venturing into a new market, there are high chance of failures. Similarly, if you're venturing into a new market, if you have the latest technology, there are high chances that you will succeed in the foreign market. So these are the two important enablers, right? Now, as I mentioned, technology creates competitive advantage. Now, some of the other points, some of the other important attributes of international business includes that international business is bound by a lot of obstacles, and these obstacles comes in the form of restrictions imposed by either home country or host country. So when we say home country, it means the country where you originate from, right? Where you started your business. The host country is where you plan to do or you're doing business, which is not your home market. So in international business, you have to face restrictions from both the company has to face imposition of these restrictions in the home country also, as well as in the host country also. So what happens? Life becomes difficult for international companies because they have to follow the rules and regulations of both home country as well as host country. But one of the major challenge here is to follow the restrictions imposed by the host country, and these restrictions sometimes can completely kill your business itself. When you venture into the market, you may not have such restrictions. So what you would have thought, okay, let me enter the market. There are not many regulations for my type of business. But what happens is after a few years, the government may realize that, okay, this kind of business does not have any restrictions. So let me frame a new law. So the moment the new law comes, your business may completely collapse. So that's the risk which you get to face in international business. That international restrictions, especially the restrictions imposed by the host country, can completely kill your business, right? And that is what happened in case of e-commerce companies in India. When e-commerce companies were doing extremely well, government was right uh, not aware, because that was totally a new kind of business for entire India also. And for government also, it was a new kind of concept when government did not bother to pay attention. But the moment the e-commerce business started growing, that is when the government realized that there is a need for restrictions, there is a need for law for e-commerce companies. And now you see most of the companies who are there in India, especially foreign companies, are finding it extremely difficult. It all started with Flipkart, who transformed the e-commerce business, who took e-commerce business to a different level to through its strategies. But over the period of time, what happened? First, Amazon ventured into India's market. Amazon was a sole competitor with Flipkart. Of course, others like Snapdeal and other companies were also there, but these were the two main players with large market share. But after Walmart took over Flipkart, government realized that India's e-commerce business is now in the hands of foreign companies, and these foreign companies are becoming dominant players, which is hindering the business of small retailers. Small retailers are losing their business, right? All these store guys are losing their business, and therefore there's a need to impose the restrictions. And the government of India introduced e-commerce rules very late, right? And after this new e-commerce rules were imposed, the businesses of Amazon and Flipkart were severely hit. Instead of using the word Flipkart, it's better to use Walmart, because Flipkart is owned by Walmart, and both are companies from USA. Now, what were the new restrictions that were introduced by government of India on e-commerce companies, and how they have affected the operations of e-commerce companies? The answer is simple. First, e-commerce companies, especially foreign e-commerce companies, were allowed to follow inventory model. Now, when we say inventory model, that means I can buy from the manufacturer, keep it in my warehouse, and I can sell later. And that is what most of the companies were doing, whether it is your Walmart or whether it is Amazon. So what will happen if I directly buy from manufacturer? I can give you 30%, 40%, 50% discount. So when I'm giving you 50 to 60% discount, what will happen to poor retailers? Obviously, a small retailer cannot compete with the likes of Amazon and Flipkart, right? So therefore, government of India realized that, okay, this is not good for the local small retailers. So let us impose restriction. Now the restriction says that e-commerce companies cannot buy and sell, but they should create a platform for others to buy and sell. Now this is called marketplace model. The first model, what I mentioned, is called inventory model, in which you can only buy, keep it in your warehouse, and you can sell as and when the orders comes. But what happens in marketplace model? I cannot buy inventory from the manufacturers. I should just create a website, and I should help other small retailers to list their products and to sell their products via my website. Now these small retailers, whenever there is a sale, they will give me a small commission. So I, as an e-commerce company, do not have the opportunity now to follow marketplace model because of the restrictions imposed by government of India. So this very badly affected the foreign e-commerce companies, right? And of course, there are some more curbs which are being implemented. Vendors are prohibited from purchasing more than 25% of inventory from marketplace entity, right? And so in order to overcome this rule, what happened was some e-commerce companies like Flipkart and Amazon, these are the two major players, what they did was they used to sell the product through other retailers. So what they'll do is, let us say I am XYZ company in India. right? So I will ask XYZ company to buy all the stock and I will invest in XYZ company. So I will show government that, okay, I'm not directly buying and selling. XYZ company is buying and selling through my platform. But who's the owner of XYZ company? Amazon and Flipkart. So that also government realized later and government imposed a ban on that also, right? And now the government the government kept on introducing series of measures, right? Earlier, you used to see some companies used to sell exclusive Samsung new model only available on Amazon, only available on Flipkart. So government says no exclusive sales can happen. You cannot give exclusive sale, right? So that is also being removed. So a lot of restrictions like this imposed by government has completely hit Amazon and Flipkart. Now they are actually wondering that why did we come to India? Because it's not helping them, right? So especially Flipkart, after investing close to $17 billion is the amount, I think $16 billion is the amount what they have spent to buy Flipkart. And after buying Flipkart, all these regulations came into effect. So the point here is that when you're doing international business, you have no option but you have to follow the law of the land. You have to follow the law of the land, not just law of the land. You may also have to follow international restrictions. So this is very important. Right now, imagine what happened between Google and Huawei. Huawei is a Chinese mobile phone company, and Google is the creator of Android software, which serves as an operating software for mobile phones. Now, Donald Trump has imposed a ban, right, on Huawei. Where the ban was imposed? The ban was imposed in USA. But as per the US regulations, if US government imposes ban on a particular company, you can't do business with that particular company anywhere in the world. So even though Huawei was banned in USA, but Google can't do business with Huawei not just in USA but anywhere in the world. So that is the kind of restrictions USA has on international trade and international business. Companies who do international trade and business, the scope of restrictions are very wide, right? For example, let us say you do some mistake in USA, but you're an Indian. But Indian government is saying if you do mistake in USA, first of all, USA will also punish you. I will also punish you in India. So from both the sides, you get punished. But similarly, here also in international restrictions, there are some countries in the world. If the restrictions are imposed, you are bound to follow these restrictions in all over the world wherever you do international business. So the case in point being Google and Huawei. Google now has withdrawn, right, many of its agreements with Huawei. Now Huawei does not have a Play Store. Huawei has its own Play Store. Play Store is owned by Google, so Huawei cannot offer Play Store. Huawei cannot offer Google Assistant, so Huawei has its own assistant now. So this has severely impacted the sales of Huawei, which was emerging as one of the global leading mobile phone company, has now become, right, performing off late. It has started performing badly, and this is all because of the restrictions. So what was the reason behind Huawei's ban? The reason behind Huawei's ban that it was collecting data of US citizens, and there are charges that these data was shared with Chinese government. There are charges of spying also on Huawei executives, right? So because of this, USA had imposed ban on Huawei, not just in India but across the globe. No American company can do business with Huawei. Forget about just Google. Nobody can do business with Huawei. So such restrictions are called international restrictions because they're not just applicable in your respective country, but they get applied throughout the globe. So as an international company, I'm not only following the restrictions of my home country, but I'm also following the restrictions of the host countries also. So this makes international business very difficult, right? That's make life difficult for an international company. So you can understand how difficult it would be for Huawei to do business across the globe now without having any kind of support from any American company, right? So that's the difficult part. Now let us also see some of the other features. Now, one of the important, I would say, privilege, one of the important benefit of venturing into international market is that international market gives you the chance of earning more profits. Why are you getting the chance of earning more profit? Is because of the simple logic that you are not only doing business in your domestic country, but you get the chance of doing business in several markets. Now, when you operate in several markets, what happens? The chances of growth and the chances of profits are much higher. So that's the reason we say international offers you highly prospective markets. So when we say prospective, it means scope for good profits and high growth. And most of the international companies look for developing countries as their target market for a simple reason that developing countries offer wide market. When I say wide market, most of the developing countries have huge population, and this population serves as a huge market for foreign companies. Why every company in the world wants to do business in India is simple because India's population offers them a very wide market, right? Similarly, China's population offers them a very wide market. Pakistan population is so huge, right? Even though it's a small country, but population in terms of density of population is huge. Brazil, huge market. South Africa, huge markets. So if I do business internationally, imagine these kind of emerging economies creates a highly prospective product for my kind of products, right? So when do we say a market is highly prospective? In order to consider a market as highly prospective, these conditions are necessary. Condition number one is the population, which I was talking about. When the population is huge, obviously the demand is perceived to be higher. One of the late entrant, but the latest entrant in Indian market, especially in the automobile sector, is a company called Kia Motors. Now, Kia originates from South Korea, right? And you know, India's market, especially automobile, already you have so many companies. In that, there's one more new company which has come. So, what would have motivated Kia Motors to come to India and do business when there is already a tough competition? The answer is simple: the population. The population base is so huge that even if KI is able to get 1 or 2% market share, that itself is more than the population of South Korea. Right? South Korea is a small country. Its population is less than the population of Karnataka. So imagine even if Kia Motors captures 2-3% of India's total market, the sales generated is more than the sales of all South Korea put together. So that's the reason, even though the competition is already tough, still I want to do business in India because the population is very huge. When you have a huge population, obviously it is understood that the demand is very huge. Demand of the product is very huge. But don't assume that these two things are directly interrelated. There is a possibility that the population may be huge, but there might not be any demand for your product. Right? So don't think like that because these are two different concepts, but they are related, but they are different points together. For example, let's say India's population is very huge, but is Ferrari a prospective market for India? The answer is 10 years back, 20 years back, it was not, but now it is. So what has made Ferrari cars for Ferrari cars, we think for Ferrari is a prospective market in India. Maybe 20 years back, the income of people was less. Number of millionaires and billionaires in India were less. But now when you see number of millionaires and billionaires in India, it is growing. Even if 1% of India's population is millionaire and billionaires, that itself is a huge market for Ferrari, right? So when we say population and demand, population will definitely help in creation of demand, but it does not mean that high population means you will have high demand. There are certain products for which there is no demand, even though the population is high, but there are certain products in India which still cannot be sold because there is no demand for such products, right? So there is a possibility, right? Uh, Now, accessibility here means accessibility means access to resources. Resources includes your finance, uh, employees or human resources, right? Raw material. So that is also another point to come to a conclusion whether the market is prospective or not. The final point is the competitive advantage. Now, competitive advantage is something that makes your company superior to other companies, provided you should have some sort of uniqueness. So in our previous case, I was talking about MG Hector. MG Hector had that competitive advantage because when it was launched, most of the Indian companies, or for that matter, foreign companies doing business in India, did not have those features which MG Hector had offered. So that is called competitive advantage. So if you have all these four parameters, then we say the market is highly prospective in nature. So is India a highly prospective market for gold? What would be your answer? The answer is you can close your eyes without thinking anything, you can directly say yes. For a simple reason that India consumes 17% of world's gold, right? 17, we are the largest consumers of gold in India. Not just in India, I mean, we are the largest consumer of gold in the world. India is the largest consumer. For a simple reason that gold is considered to be part of our culture. Gold is considered to be part of our tradition. So companies are also very smart. For you, gold is part of your tradition and culture. But for me, I will convert that tradition and culture into a business. For you, buying gold may be part of your customs. For marriage, you need gold, right? So for other cultural activities, gold is considered to be very pure and an ideal metal to buy. But for me, it is business, and that is what's happened. And that is this is what has happened, right? That the festival of gold, also known as Akshaya Tritiya, on this day of festival, buying gold is considered to be auspicious, right? And if you buy gold, it is assumed that buying of gold will bring good fortunes to you. And this festival is now being highly commercialized, right? So these are some of the facts. Indians have one of the largest private collections of gold in the world, right? Imagine, I don't know, each one of you should have a lot of jewelry at your home also, right? So second, India generally accounts, I mentioned 17%, but now this has increased by another 3%. So 20% of the gold we consume. World Gold Council, right, which is an association for all the gold mining companies and gold producers, has decided to put a lot of money into marketing. Right? Why? Because Indians are crazy about gold. Indians are crazy about gold, and therefore you have an exclusive festival of buying gold also, which is Akshaya Tritiya, and therefore World Gold Council spends a lot of money on marketing, right, during these festivals, right? You see so many ads on the television. The campaign was successful enough that Platinum saw an opportunity. The campaign of marketing during Akshaya Tritiya seems to be so successful that now even platinum, which is a higher order metal in comparison with gold and more expensive also, is also seeing an opportunity in India, right? So Platinum Guild, the all the producers and mining companies of platinum now have what they have done is they have paid a lot of money to astrologers to explain them how platinum brings fortunes to your life. How platinum can bring good health. You see, early morning you switch on these TV channels, one astrologer will be explaining you about stars, planets, and moon, and how it will impact your life. So a lot of money is being given to these astrologers to tell people that platinum is also very auspicious like gold, right? Because we tend to follow these astrologers blindly, right? So why not give money to an influencer, and this influencer will influence you to buy the product indirectly. Imagine early morning you call up an astrologer and you tell about your problems, and he'll give you a simple solution. All you have to do is wear a platinum ring. If you wear a platinum ring, so and so stone you put in that, all your problems will be solved. So you might think that okay, this is all religious and tradition perspective, but everything is actually a part of marketing. It's all marketing gimmicks in most of the cases. So therefore, your festival is being commercialized by marketers. So marketers understand you better than you understand yourself. So this is how most of the marketers are putting a lot of money into India because they think India is a very highly prospective market for doing business.